Ahoy! As I told you a couple of days ago, there are a ton of unannounced things in the new patch. And today we talk about some more of them, both concerning new mounts, as well as various new functionalities that make the game a lot easier to use. While some of this information is directly available on the PTR, others need to be data mined, and some other stuff is also further hidden and only accessible to a few people. Let's begin with the data mining. Zelenin on the New World Database Discord found information about the mounts. The first thing we have here are multiple different types of mounts. We have Open Horse Shop, we have Open Wolf Shop, and we have Open Lion Shop. The Open Shop makes me think that these are just shop tabs, and you will actually have multiple horses, multiple wolves, and multiple lions to choose from. I did not expect this variety, but it also kind of makes sense. So I was expecting just having horses in the beginning for mounts, but at the same time the devs said they wanted to go very intricate with the mount system, so it does kind of make sense, and I'm very happy about this. As somebody who used to like riding all the unique mounts in World of Warcraft that the Horde has, I am definitely looking forward to riding a wolf here, or maybe even a lion. Considering there's this shop option with likely multiple different mounts, and I'm assuming probably also some paid skins, I would also not be surprised if there are farmable mounts later in the game. This is something that is very common in other MMOs, and it would only make sense here to have some specific cool mounts that you can get for the flex for doing difficult types of content. Sandworm with a saddle, anyone? Jokes aside, there are more things to the mounts. The mounts also have buff slots, buff slot 1 and 2. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this will be character buffs. This could very easily be mount buffs. Think for example something like the carrot on a stick from World of Warcraft, only that it doesn't go into one of your equip slots and goes onto the mount instead. It'll be interesting to see what other effects they may come up with. Additionally, there are also 2 mount attachment slots. This could just be decorations or trophies or something that you can hang from your mount, but this could also be attachments for bags. An additional way to store things on your mount would most certainly be interesting too. The last part of the data mining is E-item class equipable mount. I think that doesn't really tell us much more than that they are a form of item somehow. While this is of course very exciting in itself, it's by far not the only things you're having here. Now this next thing, different from some of the ones afterwards, is something that some of you may already have seen yet if you have been on the PTR and if you've looked around a little bit. There's an option to gear swap at the press of a button now. As you can see, you have the option to bind toggle select gear set, and then you can also bind each gear set to an individual button. When put into action, the toggle gear set gives you a little overview of the existing gear sets, and you can just click on them, so that's basically a quick 2-step swap. And even easier, if you just want to do it right away, you just use the hotkey and you don't even need to go into that menu. Keep in mind that this change also comes with a shorter out of combat time, 1 second after killing a mob and 10 seconds after any fight in general, meaning that if you're getting chased in PvP, you have a much better chance to actually swap gear at the push of a button. This could lead to some very interesting situations, especially in open world PvP when it ever happens. But there's also something else that is being tested at the moment that not everyone has access to, but that is on PTR, and that is a selection system between your combat equipment and a secondary tab where you can view your tools, bags, and instruments. I'm assuming that this may have something to do with mounts being introduced, that they will also be included here. But what you can see for now is that instead of showing your normal combat stats, the secondary menu will show you your skill in different gathering skills, for example. So it seems like they are working on something here. I'm not quite sure what the end result of this will be. I feel like this has a deeper purpose. Maybe it'll be possible to have a secondary set that is just a gathering set in there somehow. Maybe. Again, not sure what exactly is going on here. But maybe it's also just an attempt to declutter the main screen a little bit. I definitely don't hate it since it was getting kind of full there, so we'll see what the final outcome here is. But there's also another very convenient feature that's in the works here, which allows you to resort your inventory. So you can, for example, put your consumables up top, which comes in very handy for expeditions. You can also choose to have a single row inventory instead of 2 rows if that's something you prefer. These things are most certainly still work in progress, so I wouldn't expect them for a while. But overall, I think they are very nice for usability and just take away a little bit of annoyance here and there, so I really like them. And on the topic of things that take away annoyance and that I really like, we have the new inventory filter. This was announced, but I want to show you what you can actually do with this thing. So there are quite a few different options on what we can find. First of all, you can search by item name. So I can, for example, search for shield, and it will just show me every item that has shield in its name. Now keep in mind, this doesn't work very well for named items or named weapons in general, if that doesn't include a title that has the name itself as well. So for example, the Deep Spring Succor here would be an item that doesn't show up if I search for head, because it doesn't have head in the name. So at the moment you cannot search for gear pieces by the type yet, but you can search for the name. But much more importantly, you can search for a specific type without another one as well. So for example, we have a greatsword here, and we don't have a sword in the inventory right now, but if we had one, it would show up here. And what you would do is if you say sword, this would show up, but if you say minus great, then it doesn't give you any great swords. It only gives you swords unless they have great in the title. And you can also search for perks. I can, for example, search for beast, and that will only give me anything that beast in the perk name. So in this case, Beast Bane, as well as Beast Ward. And if I want to have a specific item that's even better than that, I could say I want to have all the items that have Beast Ward or something with beast and refreshing. I could only just type ref here, but it would sometimes pick up other things that also have a ref in the word, so you gotta be a bit careful with that. Now it only shows me gear that has Beast Ward and refreshing. So you can narrow this down, you can do this with 3 perks, however much you want, and you can very precisely filter for the perks that you need. And I think that is by far the most important part of this. You can currently also search for specific gear scores or tiers, but that's minimum, so it doesn't work all too well. So for example, if I do 500 gear score minimum, it gives me all weapons because it includes 600 something because it's above 500. Likewise, if we search for tier 1, you'll see that every item shows up because every item is at least tier 1. We can specifically search for tier 5, which gets out a few here, but overall this doesn't do that much yet. So there are definitely improvements that can be made here. Searching for attributes is also just indirectly possible, so I can, for example, search for things of the soldier, and that would give me items that have strength, but I can't specifically search for strength yet, and not every item that has strength will have this name ending of the soldier. Again, especially named items do not follow these rules. So this is still in its baby steps, but having the option to search for perks is for me by far the most important thing, because that allows me to actually filter through my inventory and my storages and see if I can find something useful, see if I can find some Beast Ward for the Sandworm, for example. So that is what I think most people care about. The other stuff are bonus tools, and I'm sure they will improve upon them, but for now they are kind of a bit more gimmicky in comparison. On the gimmicky side, we also have a new chest opening animation, which looks a lot nicer. It has that typical little serotonin boost that people want with these things, so I think some people will actually appreciate that a lot. For me, it's just a bit whatever, but it's cool, it's there. And it is probably somewhat helpful because it allows you to have a better overview of the other chests that you're opening. And there's also the new raid UI. This raid UI is pretty cool because not only does it have the raid UI itself, which shows you all of the 4 groups, but it also allows you to choose your role as it does with the dungeon menu. But even in this 20-man raid, you can have the role displayed for literally everyone at once. I think this is a very useful thing to know who's doing what in a raid, especially if you're doing it with a random group. So for example, for the 10-man raid, this is very helpful, or in PvP situations, this can be helpful too. And it's very easy to do. You just press the raid button, I think it's L by default, and you just choose your role at the bottom, and that's it. So it's something that everyone can do quickly when joining a raid. So we definitely have some things to look forward to, especially with the mounts, but we also have a very nice amount of quality of life changes here. A lot of tools that make the game just a lot more fluid to use and just take away a lot of annoyance and make us spend less time in the inventory especially. So I'm very happy about that. There are more specific changes to other things in New World though that are also coming with the same patch that we still need to talk about. There are also some other changes that I have already talked about, I will link them right here, but there's more coming. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you get notified. Also, I've got some Diablo guides coming soon, they're almost finished. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, they get some early trading tips in return, and thank you for watching. Duke Sloth, out.